All right. So today we're going to be talking about edge analytics and how you can utilize it to improve your AV workflow. Before I do that, I'm going to sit there and switch things up a bit here. So I'm going to go ahead and enable my A40 camera because it does have analytics built into it. It's going to actually track me as I'm doing this presentation. So what exactly is edge analytics, AI video presenter? Well, first, I'd like to say that Edge Analytics been around since January of 2019. That's really where we started our AI technology by putting it into this box. Edge Analytics is a video appliance with AI technology built in. With that, you have the ability of loading in 5 different licenses into the main unit. Those licenses are handwriting extraction, PTZ auto tracking, and auto framing, close-up by gesture, chroma keyless CG overlay, and focus area cropping. But for today's presentation, I'm going to be focusing solely on handwriting extraction, PTZ auto tracking, and auto framing, because those are the two most popular applications used. Starting off with handwriting extraction, had an AI built into the rAVe Edge Analytics box utilized by taking augmented reality, extracting anything that's being written on a whiteboard or blackboard, and now it's able to create like an overlay image. You'll notice that you do have the ability of sitting there utilizing multiple whiteboards. It could be a wide board like whiteboards, but it also have the ability of doing a lot of vertical whiteboards and blackboards as well. The way you set the Edge Analytics box up is by using a web user interface as you see here. Just identifying your target area with the camera. And now with that, you're able to sit there after a few configuration steps, create this overlay. Now an instructor can actually walk back and forth in front of that whiteboard, blackboard, or green.
Kareem, I'm so sorry to interrupt you. Can you hear me? We're having a little bit of trouble. We're having a bit of trouble hearing you. The audio is a little bit crackly. Is it possible for us to?
I'm on a Bluetooth. Let me switch over to my actual headset.
Terrific, Kareem. Sorry to interrupt.
Nah, no worries. Can you hear me better now? Okay, can you hear me?
We could hear you.
Okay, I was afraid that you wasn't able to hear me. So can you still see my screen?
We can see our screen and we can see a thumbnail of you as well.
Okay, beautiful. Okay.
The audio is much better. Thanks, Kareem.
Okay, yeah, sorry about that. That was just my headset, so I'll switch this around real quick here. So as you can see here, with this particular video, you'll notice that with the Edge Analytics box and the handwriting extraction feature, you're capable of actually extracting that data from anything that's written on the whiteboard or blackboard and now bringing it to the forefront of the instructor. This is a huge advantage anytime you're doing any type of distance learning where you really want the students to sit there and follow along in real time. Now, the other application that was real powerful during COVID is actually PTZ auto tracking. In version 5.0, we now added in the ability of doing PTZ auto framing. Looking at the two applications, it's important to understand the big difference between PTZ auto tracking and auto framing. In the earlier days, versions 1 through 4 on the Edge Analytics box, we supported auto tracking, which supported a pan movement of the camera. However,
after looking at a lot of customers requesting to fill, they really wanted a camera being capable of doing pan, tilt, and zoom capabilities. That's where we came up with PTZ auto framing. PTZ auto framing will always keep the subject within the middle of the frame while doing a pan, tilt, zoom movement. Now you can sit there and see here where with the Edge Analytics box embedded into the video appliance, it's really the camera operator, if you will. But having an all-in-one solution like the SRG 840 or 812 pretty much gives a user the ability of having everything all on one complete piece. Now, going back to the Edge Analytics box, there are two applications you can run simultaneously utilizing that AI feature: PTZ auto tracking and auto framing, and handwriting extraction. It does require two PTZ cameras connected up to the Edge Analytics box. With that, you have to go through a small configuration phase, as you see here. For camera 1, you want to set up a handwriting extraction. For camera 2, you do want to set up for PTZ auto tracking. There's two HDMI outputs on the Edge Analytics box that allows you to extract that processed information and see it on your external monitor or projector. Just looking at the little the system diagram here, you'll notice that all that's required is a Sony PTZ camera, the Edge Analytics box, aka the REAC1000, a control PC for initial configuration. At that point, you can remove that PC from that system structure and run it off the APIs. But the Edge Analytics box will process that information coming in from that camera based on the application that you're running and send it out to either an external display, projector, or even an LMS server if you have that on site. Looking at the hardware specifications for the Edge Analytics box, you'll notice that we do have two HDMI inputs, two HDMI outputs that's completely independent from each other. Out 1 will do up to 4K video resolution versus out 2 will do full HD. There is an analog audio input on the back of this box that allows you to actually ingest audio into either the HDMI output or the IP streams. And the two forms of IP streams we support is RTSP and RTMP. Now, when we compare the SRG A series cameras versus Edge Analytics box, you can sit there and see that we have come a long way utilizing AI technology to simplify a lot of AV workflows. So in the earlier days when we were using the Edge Analytics box, it really required additional equipment. You needed your camera, you needed an HDMI splitter, you needed your Edge Analytics box. It really imposed a lot of latency because of processing. You had to go from camera to Edge Analytics box for processing and then output. Versus the SRG A series now has everything on board. So it puts out triple output, HDMI, SDI, and IP streaming as well. And as you can see here, having everything all in one, you have lower latency, reduced system costs, as well as simplified installation. Another thing with the Edge Analytics box versus the A-series PTZ cameras is the fact that whenever you want to sit there and make configurations on the camera and on the Edge Analytics box, you had to open up 2 web pages. The huge benefit for having an SRG A-series camera, all-in-one camera, is now you only have to open up 1 web browser to sit there and manage both your camera settings as well as your auto framing settings. We do have a large list of cameras. It's really broken down into 2 groups here, as you see. The 2 newest cameras for the BRCs is the FR7 that now has the AI built into it, so we'll actually do the auto framing, as well as the FR7 BRC. But the cameras that's in our wheelhouse is the SRG lineup, and our 2 AI built auto framing cameras would be the SRG 812 and 840. 812 is a 12x camera versus the SRG 840, which is a 30x camera. The unique thing about Sony PTZ cameras is that it will pan, tilt, zoom on all 3 axes simultaneously. So when you're using your PTZ camera in any type of video conferencing event or a town hall meeting, it will give you a nice pan, tilt, zoom movement almost as if there was a camera operator right behind that camera. Switching gears here, we're going to kind of focus a little bit more on what's unique about the A40 and A12 and the new firmware that just was released that actually support multi-person tracking. The unique thing, just like I said before, the A40, A12, and really for the most part, all our PTZ cameras really does a great job of pan, tilt, and zooming simultaneously. So the big advantage for that is when you're using a camera that's going to automate the whole process of tracking an individual. You want that nice smooth movement. And again, we have come a long way with PTZ cameras and AI analytics built into our cameras that we now are capable of supporting not only an individual wearing a mask, but if an individual turns their back to that camera, you want to have a camera that's going to actually lock onto that individual and track them, whether they are kneeling down, whether they're standing up, whether they're doing a fast movement, turning their backs to the camera, or even a mask. And even in some cases, you really want a camera that's going to stay locked onto that intended target if somebody gets up in a classroom and walks past that instructor. How do we sit there and overcome those challenges? In our SRG 840, we do have the ability of doing facial registration, which locks onto a target and really gives you that extra sense of security that that camera is not going to drift and follow someone else. It's going to stay locked onto that intended target. Again, some key features here, pan, tilt, zoom movement on the SRG 840, as well as the 812 PTZ cameras. Our cameras will move on all three axes. It will put out triple output, again, HDMI, SDI, as well as IP streaming, and we support RTSP, RTMP, and NDI-HX. For regardless of the posture movement of an individual, again, it really doesn't matter if they're wearing a mask, if they're turning their back to that camera, it will stop locked onto them. And natural framing. This is something that really sets us aside. The ability of doing additional framing options. Typically, you might have 2 framing options. We're able to support 3, close up, full body, as well as waist. And now I have a short video that I'm going to play out, just talking a little bit about the new firmware update.
I'm not sure your audio's on.
No, I'm actually letting the video play out. Can you hear the video audio?
We cannot. I think you need to share your audio from the share button.
Got it. I'll actually do something better. I'll just talk over the audio of it's playing out. That way, you know, we're not running over too much time here. So as we get into it, there's been some updates in version 2.0 that allows you to sit there and do multi-person framing. So we'll track up to 8 individuals within a frame, as you see here. The SRG 840 and 812 was released back in 2020, so it's about a year old. So it does support now with multi-person framing as well as facial registrations. Those were the 2 added features. As you see here, it's something that you can adjust on the fly. So if you notice that you can have up to 4 individuals within a frame, as 4 people come into the frame, you'll notice that it starts to widen out as individuals add up into that particular frame. Now let's sit there and say you want to sit there and set certain priority orders with that as well. You'll notice that you do have the ability of setting those priority orders where if you wanted me, for example, to be priority order 1, you definitely could do that. You'll notice that in the web user interface, if you want to sit there and actually deduct individuals from that framing. That way, it's no longer, the camera's no longer looking for 4 individuals within that frame. You can't sit there and do that again, all from the web user interface. The benefit of having a web user interface is that it really gives you the flexibility of managing the camera remotely. There's no longer a need of being local to that particular camera. Now, looking here at the facial registration feature, you'll notice that individual just has to look at the camera, take capture. Now you're just going to name it. Once you name it, you do have the ability to send it.
I just want to make sure you know you're not sharing.
Oh, geez. No, I did not know.
Thanks, Kareem.
Yeah, sorry for all these technical issues. So I don't know how much of that we caught, but I'm going to just back it up a little bit since it looks like we have a little bit of time here. Can you see my screen now?
We cannot.
How about now?
Not yet. Now we can.
Okay, not sure what happened there. So with the facial registration, you'll notice that you can sit there and do a capture of an individual's face and then name it. So with this, what's really cool about this particular feature is that you can sit there and set a priority order. So if you want a priority order 1 for me that's speaking, but if somebody like Nicole was going second, you can set her for priority order 2. So as soon as I walk out of that frame, it's going to just reset, look for Nicole within that frame, and lock onto her. And now she can sit there and freely walk around the room while giving her presentation. Now you notice as soon as you can set the PTZ camera, the 840 to 812, to automatically search for an individual and then lock on. Once it locks on that individual, it stays locked on. You'll notice that it doesn't matter if somebody stands in front of that individual, it'll stay locked onto that intended target. And that's purely because of that facial registration feature and priority order. Now that's something that you can sit there and set a timer for. Let's sit there and say a presenter do walk out of that frame. How can you reassure that that camera is not going to sit there and follow that person out into the audience? 2 things. You can set priority borders. So as soon as that camera as soon as that presenter walks off a stage, that camera will reset back to that podium where the next individual will be able to come up, stand at that podium, and give their presentation. You can adjust your wide angle and tight angle on the fly. And again, unlike other manufacturers, you can sit there and adjust your framing options if you want to sit there and just have a waist shot, close up, or full body. There's also been some improvements to the IR remote, as you see here. If you want to utilize the IR remote to sit there and change the amount of people, individuals that you want to target, you can actually just hit the function button that specific amount of times, and now it's going to sit there and start tracking those amount of intended targets within that frame. So with that, that concludes my presentation. I'm going to open